Videotapes. We've made over 1 million videos now in 6 languages. They're not copyrighted. They're not copyrighted. Evolution probably would be a false religion as opposed to a branch of Christianity. But there are quite a few other religions. I'm going to cover a lot of this in our college class, so I'm going to skip most things for now. I won't cover them all now, just to hit a few highlights. But in our college class, in the 200 series, we will cover a lot of other religions. I mean, there's a lot of religions out there. Who's right? Well, obviously, the independent Baptists are right. You know, when you get done climbing the mountain of truth, that's, fine. That they're sitting there all along. Did you figure that out yet, Derek? That the independent Baptists are the ones that are right? You're not quite there yet. You're still climbing? Still climbing, okay. So I'm not against other religions. I'm simply for truth and against error. And if the Catholics teach something that is right, I'll say, yay, you're right. If my mother teaches something that is right or wrong, I'll say, yay, that's right. If you want to do some interesting study, read the 10 Commandments in Exodus chapter 20, and then go to any Catholic church and say, hey, do you guys have the 10 Commandments? Oh, yeah, they'll give you a copy of them. They left out the second one, about don't make a graven image. Their 10 Commandments skip commandment number 2, and they take commandment number 10 and split it into 2 commandments to make 9 and 10. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Which really was one commandment. Why wouldn't they want the real one in there that says don't make a graven image? Because their church is full of graven images, okay? So, back in the... They say, in the Catholic Catechism, 841, the Church's relationship with the Muslims is, the plan of salvation also includes those who acknowledge the Creator, the first place among whom are the Muslims. These profess to hold the faith of Abraham, and together with us they adore the one merciful God. There's an excellent little bitty comic book called The Prophet you can get from our ministry. It's like $2 or something like that, by Jack Chick. He goes through the history of the Muslim church and how they started. Very few people realize it was the Catholics that started Islam. They started the whole religion purposely to try to get the Holy Land back for the Catholics. They built up the Islam, they funded Muhammad, they trained him, they sent a Catholic nun out of the monastery. They said, we want you to come out of your convent, go find a young promising Muslim, marry him, and train him to raise up an army of Arabs to go take back the Holy Land for the Mother Church. Quite an interesting story if you want to read about that. It started to work, but then it failed because Islam got so big, they said, well, forget you Catholics, we're doing what we want. And I don't think most Muslims, which is now, what, 20% of the world population, Islam, I don't think most of them know that they really started off as a front for the Catholic Church. So let's cover just a little bit on Muslims. Ask the Muslim, how do you know Muhammad was a prophet? They'll say, well, he had a mole on his back. Holy moly. That's how you know he's a prophet, because he's got a mole on his back. I've got a mole on my back. Got one right here on my cheek. Man, I must be a double prophet. Got 2 moles. Albert, you got any moles? Yeah. Wow, bow down and worship Albert, you know. In one of the Muslim verses says, Muhammad asked the question, when I am dead and buried in the ground and go back to dust, is that all? What will happen to me? Muhammad himself had no clue if he was going to heaven. This verse in the Qu'ran says, when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it set in a pond of murky water. Would that be scientifically accurate to say the sun sets in a pond of murky water? No. I would say the earth turns around and the sun, appears to go around the earth. This is not scientifically accurate. The Quran has loads of scientific errors. It's not a holy book. Allah commands any person who leaves Islam or encourages others to do so should be seized and slain. There are over 100 commands in the Quran to kill people who won't convert. Anybody? Okay. What about Mormons? What do they believe? Are they a Christian religion? Joseph Smith said, I see no faults in the church, and therefore let me be resurrected with the saints. Whether I ascend to heaven or descend to hell or go to any other place, if we go to hell, we will turn the devils out of doors and make a heaven out of it. Where this people are, there is good society. What do we care where we are if the society be good? Joseph Smith didn't know if he was going to heaven or hell, by the way. God made Aaron to be a mouthpiece to the children of Israel, and he will make me be God to you in his stead. If you don't like it, you must lump it. That's what Joseph Smith said. Joseph Smith said, there are men living on the moon who dress like Quakers and live to be nearly 1,000 years old. Well, we've been to the moon a bunch of times now. Are there Quakers up there? This is scientifically inaccurate, okay? He's wrong. The official Mormon doctrine is someday we get to become God. The Mormons teach as we are, Adam, or God once was. God used to be a man, and as God is, we shall be. And they think Adam became God. So when they pray, Heavenly Father, they're praying to Adam. There's some good books we offer. Here you can get on Mormonism. The Secret History of the Mormon Church is excellent. This shows some of the history of how people have been killed trying to leave Mormonism. Because what about Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, we could spend 2 days on Jehovah's Witnesses. I just recommend you get the book, Answers to My Jehovah's Witness Friends. There are other ministries that deal just with that. There's a good little pamphlet you can get, 15 Reasons Why I'm Not a Jehovah's Witness. Here's the address on the screen. You can get McGregorMinistries.org. There are people who have taken, God has led it on their heart to, witness to the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're very sincere, really duped. One of the craziest religions on the planet has got to be Jehovah's Witness. As I go, many of my friends and neighbors are Catholic, and I'm not going to try to bash Catholics too hard here, but they need to really study what their church teaches, and I think they would get out and go to a different kind of church. Milton Cooper has a book out called Behold a Pale Horse, in which he says, and I've tried to document this, and many people have said, yes, I've heard that it's true, but I can't prove it, so I'll keep working on documentation. But here's what he says in his book. During World War II, a Polish salesman working for IG Farben Chemical Company sold cyanide, Zyklon B, and malathion to the Nazis to help exterminate the Jews at Auschwitz. After the war, he feared for his life, so he joined the Catholic Church and became a priest in 1946. In 1958, he was ordained as Poland's youngest bishop. After 30 days, the reigning pope was assassinated, and he became Pope John Paul II. If you study the history of the Catholic Church and their persecution of Christians down through the last few thousand years, read Fox's Book of Martyrs or other books like that. I think you'll say, wow, I better get out of this. I used to